Gossip. Thank you guys for checking out another great episode on Gossip. Remember, gossip is what's true to you. It may not be true amongst the masses, but it's true to us. Don't forget to get the book Rise of the Black Woman. The latest version is on Amazon for like $15, written by Kanu Morel. This book will be historic. I promise you it will stand the test of time. Stop by our store, ninthdimension.com, and pick up some soul apparel. Now back to the episode. Gossip. Listen, gossip. I hear so many people have the answer on who God is. But it's very few people that have the answer on what God is. Some will say God is Jesus or Buddha, the Dalai Lama, or El Cristo Negro, Ogun, Oshun. Like, God is so many things, so many different people. And it's like, how can that be what's important? It definitely can't be the people, because there's too many of them. If God was all these people, it's too many of them. So it's definitely not the people. But everybody know who God is. The question that should be asked is, what is God? Because you can have many things that people can consider gods. But the one thing that God truly is energy. It's not that it's not about all these different people. It was the energy that was inside of all these different people. That's what was in common. That's the common denominator. It's an energy. And so, with understanding that God is a energy and not a physical being, we can begin to get a little deeper into understanding something that is necessary moving forward in this Aquarian time. And so the question is need to be asked is, what is God? For one, we know God is authority. God is one that sets the rules, builds all things. He's in charge of the people. He's in charge of the angels and the demons. He's in charge of nature. God is in charge. He's all powerful, got control, all knowing, knows all things, see all things, everywhere at once. God is everywhere. There's nothing that can be done that God don't see. God is wise, faithful, good, right, perfect. Everything God does is perfect. God is just. God is merciful. God shows mercy to those that need mercy to be shown to. God is gracious. Been known to spare a few. God is a lot of things. We're looking at these attributes of God in a spiritual way. Meaning that this is how we see God on a mental plane. In the world today, on this physical plane, God is still here. But before I get into trying to communicate how God is still here, let me talk about the government. The government rules all. It rules over the people, which are demons, angels, and gods. It rules over nature. It is all powerful. It sets rules or statutes in place. It causes war. It goes back and rebuilds places it destroyed. Does a lot of things. It's all knowing. They keep records on your ass for everything. It's always contract, paperwork. Because there's contract and paperwork, I am all knowing. Records. It is omnipresent. You can't go somewhere there's no established form of government. Government is a part of order. Now, I just made an analogy between God and the government. It's one and the same. Or it's an emulation. But in this physical plane, it's one and the same. I'm gonna keep explaining why. What I think a lot of people miss is that we live in a duality. And in this duality, everything must reflect. If there is a God in the spiritual, there must be a God in the physical. But the God is energy. If there is a God in the spiritual, there must be a God in the physical. So the government or the system understands this. And so they create groups that we call the government, and they are like, well, we're going to be God in the physical. But if you understand the book, if you understand the book in all its sayings, whereas Jesus said, John the Baptist is greater than I, and ye are as gods, and you will do greater things than I have done, and Jesus is my shepherd. Jesus is my guide. We were given the information. What was it trying to say? It was trying to tell you that Jesus is your God and your guide for getting into heaven or going to the next level. On another level, it was, and this is what going in another podcast, is that on a whole nother level, each age prepares you for the next. Jesus was the Piscean age. The Jesus fish. I know we seen the Jesus fish and we don't know nothing else. Jesus was the Piscean age. And the Piscean age was to prepare us for going into the Aquarian age. which is the age of water, which symbolizes knowledge. And coming into this age, Jesus, who is our shepherd, was supposed to have prepared us for how we were supposed to live in this new age. And so, in doing so, he was there to guide you in order to lift you up to to Christhood. Because that's why they call Jesus Christ. Christ is an energy. We often call it God. It's a feminine energy as well. And so the government knew that if there was a God in the spiritual, it has to be a God in the physical. And that's why in the physical, we call God a him. Or he's a he. Because we're always talking about the physical God. When you talk about the spiritual God, it's feminine. Okay? So, one thing the government understood is that God had to be here as well. And so, there was a fight. And the government won. The government overthrew the people. This is your God and devil story. The government overthrew the people. And in doing so, they started doing what God did, but in a different form, a different fashion. So, in other words, the government plays God here on earth. They the ones that punish people, sentence people, do all this stuff. And so there was a fight between God and the devil. So if the government plays God physically, that automatically makes you the devil. And so because you wasn't fully told how to come into this new age where you were given the information of Jesus, but it wasn't given to you in order for it to do what it was meant to do. Like, it was a lot of stuff that was left out, or that was misunderstood, or not understood at all. And that's that if the government is God, who are you? If you're opposite of God, then you must be the devil. Now, what you was not told, or what you didn't understand in the teachings of Jesus, is that, no, you have to play God here as well. And so by you playing God, that automatically makes the government who? The devil. This is a spiritual warfare that we fight. But you was not told the implications of how life is, and how nature is, and the inversion of nature, and the inversion of energy. How one energy is another, and how to utilize it. So this show is about what is God. When it comes to being God, somebody has to play God physically. So therefore the government plays God physically. And they really don't even do it physically. That's really the illusion that people are in. The government is comprised of people. The government is really just paperwork and a mental state It's something that's fixated in your mind. They got people on an ego trip to where they feel like they can do this and that to other people. And so if you want to stop people from being evil with people, then somebody got to play God. Or you just going to let the evil keep playing God? You know, keep letting the evil people play God. Versus you standing up and being God in the physical and correcting the actions of the evil gods, which would be the devils if you stand up. But because you won't stand up or we won't stand up, the devil keeps ruling as God. Didn't it say God gave the devil dominion over the earth? I tell people all the time, the greatest trick that was ever played was the devil making you believe that he wasn't God. And that's the same trick the government has done. The government has made people believe that it's the government and not God. Because it damn sure acts like they God. If you look at it, it sure resembles. And so in understanding this, we got to be like, okay, well, how can they play God? The only way they can play God is because you not playing God. You not acting like the person that you supposed to be. And therefore, you in sin. I hope that I was able to relay this message properly. You know what I'm saying? But this is a understanding that must be obtained. It is a job that we must do. It's a duty going into this Aquarian age. And it's a lot to understand in order to be God. Based off if you trying to play the game the way they got it set up for you to play. Like, if you want to be God in their game, it's all kind of paperwork and documentation and stuff you must file. You would never beat them at their game. Paperwork is their game. So in order for you to be God, you got to be God mentally. And act it out physically. The friendly way to be God is to do the paperwork. But we got to get past that because we got to do this as a collective in order to usher in a different resonance on earth. And we will not worship. We will not cause havoc unless it's a must. And it's always a must when they bring you into your court into their courtroom because they are worshiping you then, or making you worship them. Because you got to remember, I said this before, that vows are interchangeable. So if you worship, you worship, and you worship and worship when you go into court. And when you go into court is the time that we must cause havoc peacefully. But we must illustrate that we're being God. Because if we don't illustrate that we're playing or being God at this moment, or embodying Christ at this moment, then they will embody, well, they definitely won't embody Christ, but they will, because they utilize the feminine energy to create the illusion. And so they will worship with you or worship with you when you go into court. And so it's a very important that you play God. And if you have read the book talks about how Jesus stood against the government and paying taxes and big businesses. And to embody Christ, or the shepherd, the way the shepherd was leading, the shepherd was telling you that to be God, or today's time they call it sovereign, that you must stand against this powerful entity that is masquerading as God on the earth, but have so many devilish deeds, or stand behind so many devilish deeds. When will we stand up? When will we stand up? And so it's time. It's time that we understand what the Piscean age was about. It's time that we understand what Jesus was really trying to relay, so that we can all become Christ-like. Balancing the masculine and feminine energy. Balancing this masculine and feminine energy, to give you an example of this, is so, like, say for instance, if you go to court. So you go to court, they acting as God, you appearing as the evil one, because you the one in sin. And so to become Christ-like is to understand that no man has authority over no man. No man has authority over another man. And that comes from using your creative energy to actually recognize this. That's the feminine energy. To be able to recognize the illusion being played. To be able to understand the duality. Physically, they put you in fear. But because we're not connected spiritually, or we've not united our feminine energy, is why we don't come to the understanding of, oh, well, who are you? First of all, and who told you that you could tell me what to do? Typically, if somebody telling me what to do, you owe me some money, because you giving me orders. So pay me. Now, if you're not going to pay me for the things you tell me to do, then you must be saying that I'm your slave. And I just do as told. So it's important that we understand how this masculine and feminine energy works, so that we can raise ourselves up to this Christ-like being for this Aquarian age we about to enter into, to where it's going to be important to have your sovereignty, or to be God-like, where you're growing your own food, taking care of your own business, not depending on the government for nothing. Not depending on the handouts, because you better believe they're getting ready to do a lot of handing out, because they want to keep you under a contract. Because every time they hand you something, it comes with a cost. And sometimes you don't see the cost up front, but you better believe it. It comes with a cost. What is God is the question. When you begin to understand that it's energy, and it's the balancing of the masculine and feminine energy, it will no longer be a question as to what is God. It'll be who is God, and that will be you. I hope this message reached you so that you can get an understanding of what I'm trying to relay. I hope that you share this podcast because there are a lot of people that need to hear this message, because this is finna be a time where you need to know what's happening. You need to know exactly how to operate in this new world. And we need to get away from the paperwork, because the contracts you are bound by. You need to know how to live off your word. Do and say what you mean. And that's gossip.